that people say things like, I'm afraid of color. I'm afraid to apply color. When in actuality, there's just a big misunderstanding of color, because once you understand the rules, then the fear, knowledge truly destroys fear. But then we go even deeper and we realize that people are not afraid of color. People are not afraid of rinses. They're not afraid to apply demi-permanent rinses. Many people, because of the kind of, it's not so much about measuring a lot of time. Many people are not even afraid to use lighteners, because they know that with a lightener, it's pretty much what it is. It's a decolorizer, it's an eraser. And if you apply developer, be it 10, 20, 30, or 40, things will start to happen. It'll start decolorizing. So people are really not afraid. I see it all over the internet. People are bleaching up or storm over the internet. So the question is, like, what are people afraid of? And oftentimes the fear is in the lack of predictability or the calculation of permanent color. Permanent tube color. It's not really lighteners a lot of times. It's not rinses. And it's not demi-permanent, it's not color glosses, and it's not demi-permanent. It's that one category, guys. It's that one category of permanent color that people have a fear. And then they don't really have a fear. I really tried to just pigeonhole what the issue was. And it's not so much about a fear. It's that lightener, there's not a lot of thinking a lot of times. Glosses, it's like food coloring. You just apply it to the hair. Demi-permanent, there is measuring, but it's pretty much one added together and you apply a black or a brown and that kind of thing for gray coverage. But it's the measuring, it's the formulation, it's the calculation. How much hair color, how much time does it lift over color? What about the developer? And there's many things that I can talk about with hair color to get people's mind open, things that I think that can help them with hair color. But there's one area that I know people are still very ignorant, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, just ignorant or ignoring, is that getting black off of that hair. Yeah, so it's the developer that people don't really understand or don't really want to take the time to understand what's happening with hair color. Guys, permanent hair color is just that. It's color that's inside of a conditioning cream, right? Now, hair color on its own without developer is just a cream. It does not get activated until you actually place the developer, not heat, but the developer or the peroxide, the active ingredient in developer, hair color developer, is peroxide. And when that hits, oftentimes this ammonia-based color, it activates into a new chemical that we know to be hair color. Now, guys, that hair color, permanent hair color, pretty much no matter whatever the company, it takes about 35 to 40 minutes to do the process of what permanent hair color is. Unlike a semi-permanent or demi-permanent color, it's deposit only. Now, if you could think about it, just think about it like this. This is not really in real time, but just imagine if it takes 20 minutes to deposit and 20 minutes to lift. So think about this. When you're applying a semi-permanent gloss or a demi-permanent hair color, doesn't it take about 20 minutes for it to deposit the hair color on the hair? When you are lifting hair with a lightener, for the most part, in about 20 minutes, the hair color or the color from the hair, the pigment or the tone of the hair, right? The natural color, the natural pigment will be lifted out because the lightener will lift out the color. It doesn't often deposit anything. It's just an eraser. It just lifts it out. And in about 10, 15 to 20 minutes, it's done where you need it to be. So permanent color lifts and deposits. So Oftentimes we get confused because we want things to happen in 20 minutes because we're used to 20 minutes for a lightener or 20 minutes for a color gloss or gray coverage. But if you don't, okay? So by doing permanent hair color, guys, we need both actions. Permanent color, when a developer is mixed with the cream hair color or the ammonia hair color, it creates a process that lifts and deposits. This is very, very important. That process, guys, needs more than 20 minutes. It needs 35 to 40 minutes to fully go in and remove the natural pigment in the hair, then place in at the same time a deposited new color. 7 in, 5 copper, 8 natural, 3 chocolate, 9 ash. So it removes the furniture in the house, right? And then deposits or places in new furniture. Deposit doesn't remove anything from the house. It just places more pigment, depth, or more furniture in the house. Does that make sense? Versus lightener removes all of the furniture from the house. Permanent color actually removes and deposits in one move. And that's why you need the full 35 to 40 minutes. Now that part of hair color, people, I guess, maybe don't want to fully understand, because when you think about something that can deposit, hey there, Rhonda, and lift at the same time, that saves so much time with lifting and then rinsing and then reparting off and then applying more like the lift and drop type of hair color that we see very, very common, but there's not as much permanent hair color where you can lift and deposit. Now, how does it, what do you use in order to get that lift or deposit? Oftentimes, guys, when we want to actually see the hair color that's actually lifted, many of us are doing darker hair, level 1, level 2, level 3. So oftentimes when we want to see, light hair, our mentality is, well, we're going to have to use bleach because that's the only thing that will actually lift the hair. And that's not true. That's a cop-out for not understanding formulations. That's actually a quitter's kind of mentality to believe that you could not lift and deposit a new shade with permanent color. And I really want to encourage you guys to work with your permanent shades, because the color companies that are out today, guys, are truly much more sophisticated than they were maybe 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And they can do some amazing things, and it gradually takes up the hair color with more of a conditioning cream hair color versus oftentimes the harsher lightener if we're not careful, even if we're using Olaplex. So the developer activates that process. Now, how do we understand developers? And this is another problem with understanding developer, because generally with lightener, many of us do not go past 20 volume. We can use 5 volume of developer and get lift. It's just a lifting agent and doesn't deposit. We can use 10 volumes and get amazing lift depending on the porosity of the hair. It's not a lifting agent, it's not a deposit agent, it just lifts. We can also use 20, but anytime you start using like 30 and 40 volume developer, it can go in very aggressive for a long period of time. There is no waning on the strength of the developer, and things can happen that can sometimes damage the hair. Now, because of that, it's almost like a bad boyfriend or a bad girlfriend. Because 30 and 40 with lightener when we're not as conscious of what we're doing, maybe gave us bad results, then we imagine that we can't use 30 ever, that we can't use 40 ever, right? Because that's going to break the hair. But ironically, developer, guys, does not operate or move or function at all in the same way that it does with lightener, right? And that it does with permanent color. It doesn't move the same way, right? When you're talking about lifting and depositing, 10 volume does not lift anything because it does not open up the cuticle. Just as the best way that I can describe it. It doesn't open up the cuticle. It's more of a depositing developer with permanent color. Now look, 10 volume with a lightener can get you all the way up to gold. Look, listen to what I just said. 10 volume with permanent cream color will not get you any lift. It's only to deposit hair color. But 10 volume with a bleach or a lightener can live sometimes up to 5 levels, which lets you know that developer does not function the same way with permanent color as it does lightener. This is very, very important. And once you get this, you're like, oh man, I understand permanent color. And guess what? The average permanent color line has like 80 shades for you to pick from that are intermixable, where you could make 80 more shades. So there's so much more variety versus lifting out with a lightener and depositing on some vivid orange, pink, or red all the time, even though we love those too. 20 volume with permanent color has a limited amount of lift, and we'll tell you why. I want you to think maybe differently from 2 levels of lift, 3 levels of lift, 5 levels of lift. I want you to think of a different way. I'm going to use a different example. 30 volume lifting has even more lifting power, and we'll tell you why. And 40, even though you have instances, and there actually exists 50 volume, there's even 100 volume somewhere in the world, right? But generally, you're dealing with 10, 20, 30, and 40. And 40 oftentimes can get you amazing lift with your permanent shades, especially blondes, on level 3 or 2 hair. How is that possible? Guys, imagine if we were all driving a car. Right now, we have Rhonda on here. We have Lakeisha on here, and we have Jasmine on here. All right, so we're all driving a Toyota Camry 2016, the very same car. Now, Rhonda has a full tank of gas. Lakeisha has 3/4 of a tank of gas. Jasmine has a half a tank of gas, and I have a 1/4 tank of gas. The same car, the same kind of gas. Do we got that? The exact same car, same color, same year, same model, same kind of gas, except I have a 1/4 tank, Jasmine has a half tank, Lakeisha has 3/4 of a tank, and Rhonda has a full tank of gas. Now, if we start driving from Columbus, Georgia, and we're on our way to Atlanta, who's going to run out of gas first? Me. I'm going to run out first. Now, does that mean there's something wrong with my car? No, I just ran out of gas. Who's going to be the next person who's going to get a lot further, but they're going to get further than me, but they're going to eventually run out of gas too if they don't stop? Who's going to run out of gas next? Jasmine. Jasmine has a half a tank of gas, so she's going to run out of gas next. Who is going to keep driving? Two of the other 2 people are going to keep driving, but who's going to run out of gas next after Jasmine? Lakeisha. So Keisha has 3/4 of a tank of gas, then she's going to run out. Now, if it takes a full tank of gas to get to level 9 or 10, or to the level that we're trying to go, let's say if we're trying to get to Stone Mountain, right? Rhonda has the full tank. Rhonda's going to make it. Lakeisha's going to stop short. Jasmine's going to stop behind her. And I didn't really even get out of Columbus. Now, what is that analogy? I'm 10 volume. Jasmine is 20 volume. Lakeisha is 30 volume. And Rhonda is 40 volume developer. It's not acid. It's not going to kill you. It just has more lifting power or more gas. And one is designed to go for about 10 minutes, 10 volume. One is supposed to lift for about 20 minutes, 20 volume. One is going to give you lifting power for about 30 minutes, 30 volume. And one is going to give you lifting power for about 35 to 40 minutes, 40 volume. Now, if permanent color needs at least 35 minutes to have the full process of lifting out the natural color and depositing in the new color, can 10 volume ever lift and give us any visible lift with permanent color? No. And Jasmine is not a hairstylist. No, it doesn't have enough lift. What about 20 volume? Can 20 volume give us any visible lift with permanent color? Can 20 volume give us visible lift with, it can give some, right? But it is not oftentimes, especially your level 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10, it's not going to give you the full process. It will give you visible lift. You'll get some distance, but you'll oftentimes fall short of your desired lift, and you will think that the color doesn't work. You'll believe that the color's too dark. You'll believe that something was done incorrectly. And then what will happen is we'll run back to lightener because we know that lightener will just erase things. And it's not that something's wrong. We just didn't formulate properly. Guys, when you're dealing with level 3, 4, and 5, sometimes if you're coming from level 2 or 3, 20 volume is enough. 20 volume is often not enough for level 5, 6, and 7. They often desire 30 at least volumes of lift, 30 volume for those levels of lift if you're coming from level 2. Now, if you're trying to get to 8, 9, and 10, and why is that important? Because oftentimes we are trying to get gold or blonde, and we use 30 volume or 20 volume, which will stop short of blonde, which will leave us in what color category oftentimes? Just like the car that's going to stop short of trying to get to Stone Mountain. Where? Right. It's going to stop in your reds, 4, 5, and 6. Even if it gets to 6, it'll begin to look maybe copper. And then we'll say, well, the color's brassy. When it's not necessarily brassy, it's stopping at copper. It's doing what it's supposed to do with the amount of gas that you gave it. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? Because I think if we can understand developer, right, if we can understand developer, we will make the choice to use permanent color more. But because it takes a level of science or develop a mixing, yes, so much sense, right? I'm glad, man. So now when it comes to blondes, the same, if we're trying to get to level 8, and we need 35 to 40 minutes, when it comes to level 8, 9, or 10, what volume developer do we have to use? We got to use 40. We have to use 40, and 40 is not acid. It is just a full tank of gas. Now, when you lift with 40 volume developer with a lightener, which can get you to the level of lift that you desire in 20 minutes, 40 minutes of lift uninterrupted that you don't rinse off would be too much for bleach. Does that make sense? Yes, but bleach gives all of hair color a bad rep. It is lightener. It is designed to lift or erase. Permanent color does not. Okay, I'll say it again. If you're using 40 volume, which is designed to lift, I love how you explain it. It really makes sense. 40 volume is designed to lift, right, for 40 minutes. Now, with lightener, you generally need 20 minutes to get to the lightener, to get to the top of the levels of lift oftentimes, because it's aggressive and it's designed to lift. But if you just need 20 minutes. But if you had 40 minutes of lift with the lightener, and it keeps going and it doesn't shut off, it doesn't have any shut off time, lightener does not have shut off time, it just keeps on going, then that would be too much lift, and that is where you get damage, compromise to the hair. But 40 volume for blonde, watch this, a lot of people don't know this. Permanent color has its own timer inside of the color. After 40 minutes, permanent color stops. A lot of people don't know that. It doesn't keep going like it doesn't keep going like lightener. After 35 to 40 minutes, the car will slow down with permanent color. And the developer only will process up to the levels of lift that you put in. 30 minutes for 30 volume, 40 minutes. So after 30 to 40 minutes, the whole solution stops. Lightener, on the other hand, keeps going. So there's a level of control and predictability with permanent color. So if you put in 30 volume and 7 copper, and there's not any previous hair color on the hair, it will lift all the way up to level 7, deposit copper hair color, and it'll turn its own switch off. You rinse, and you have copper hair without lifting and dropping. If you have a level 6 red, it will lift up to level 6, deposit red, and shut off in 35 to 40 minutes. And then you have red hair. If you have 8 blonde, which is like a khaki natural color, let's say if you got an 8 natural, it will lift the hair out and it will remove the natural pigment and apply 8 natural, and then it will shut off. So if you use a hair color with developer, the hair is conditioned while lifting and more control. Exactly. That's why oftentimes the adjective in front of hair color is conditioning hair color. But lightener is so fast and we're so impatient as artists that we'd rather do something that starts to evaporate right in front of us. The torture of waiting 30 to 40 minutes for something to happen and it might not happen the way we did, we are not about to chance that, because the average artist is about perfectionist. Yet in order to learn hair color, you're going to have to learn and make mistakes and make discoveries. So instead of making any mistakes or discoveries, we say foolish things like, I don't like hair color. I don't like hair color, which is not true. I don't like color. That's not true. It's not true. We just don't want to take the time to learn the theory of hair color. And there's a belief, I'm just keeping it real, that certain types of stylists are not smart enough to understand hair color. I've actually heard that verbalized to me before, which is comical, which even made me more passionate about learning how it works. And then once you learn how it works, especially now with things like Olaplex and Neobond and all these other sulfate bond perfectors and multipliers, guys, it's never more, in my opinion, easier to really get the kind of hair color that you desire. Dimensional hair color, it's going to be really hard to pull that off in a 2-hour span with lightener, because you got to lift and rinse off and repart. That's why you hear people online talking about they're taking 7 hours to do corrective color, because it's so many steps when we're just using lightener. But with permanent color, after 40 minutes of applying the foils, after 40 minutes of letting it process, you rinse, condition, and style. It's done. 2 hours, you're finished. 2 hours, you've made $200 or better, and you're done. You're finished. Guys, I'm actually looking for the ingredients, and they don't have it on here. Right. So the active ingredient in developer, first one is water. The next one is hydrogen peroxide. That's pretty much all this is, guys. That's why when you was young and you had your little hair and you put a little peroxide on your hair, then it'll turn copper. Put some peroxide on your hair and go sit out in the sun. It's just peroxide. They're selling it to us like it's some magic potion. But the chemistry in hair color is the conditioning hair color that houses the ammonia-based color needs the peroxide as an active ingredient to actually open it up and oxidize to create what you and I know as hair color. Right? So that's color theory. But then you could begin to get creative and say, dag, okay, so let me put in 30 volume with level 8 natural. And then let me put in another foil, 40 volume with level 9 violet. And then let me put in level 5 chocolate. Let me put those foils in with 30 volume. Let me lay those in back to back to back and let that fall. Chocolate, caramel, and vanilla cream. Ooh, that's almost impossible to create, guys, with lightener. But with permanent color, guys, you can get funky with it. So I had that conversation with somebody today and said they didn't understand color, and I don't like color, but when in actuality was they're frustrated because everything else is 1-2 mix and go. Permanent color requires you to understand some chemistry, to understand some formulation, to have some measurements. You need to know whether or not the hair color is ratio 1 to 1.5 ounces of developer. You need to know whether it's an American line. Often American lines are 1-to-1. For every 1 ounce of color, 1 ounce of developer. You need to know that they require 35 to 40 minutes of lift. You need to know that honestly, heat is not always, if any, required, especially with the sophistication of hair color we got today. It's going to lift out the hair with the body heat and room temperature. It doesn't need a dryer all the time. A lot of times people put the hair color under the dryer and it starts to cook the color, and that's where they get compromised. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Take your time and learn. Give the color away maybe once or twice so you can see what it does. Put in 40 volume, level 9 ash blonde tomorrow. Or maybe not tomorrow because it's Thanksgiving, but the next time you get a chance. No heat, and just watch it lift right in front of your eyes. Watch it lift out her natural color and put in an ashy blonde. And then you'd be like, wait a minute. So that means it's going to do that for all 80 shades? Yep. All 80 shades function the same. And hair color has to move the same all over the board, which means you don't have to really get any type of different developer. Developer with permanent color all works the same. Yep, newsflash. That's why I deal with the same sensitive scalp developer no matter what line it is. Another thing is, because all hair color has to be formulated a certain way, when they tell you that all 80 shades in a particular line, Paul Mitchell, Joico, Goldwell, are intermixable, all hair color is intermixable. All of it. Many of my clients got on their head right now from one bowl, a little bit of Paul Mitchell, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I had some more red from Rusk. Let's go ahead and put this. It's all the same stuff for the most part, guys. Newsflash. Guys, if this has helped, let me get some hearts. I'm going to get out of here. But I do want you to think about that over your holiday, how you can place that kind of understanding inside of hair color. Now, I could give you that game, but it's going to be up to you to actually put it to work. Guys, if you want more color theory, more color application tips, more understanding of hair color in an intricate manner by somebody, honestly, that has spent at least 15 years in my career teaching hair color, understanding hair color. You just broke it way down. I'm trying to, guys. Guys, get connected to the team. Torregano Education, all access membership. Just imagine Netflix for hairdressers. So you got an opportunity to go in and watch a video about theory, watch a video about developer, watch a video that actually shows me applying hair color, watch me a video with balayage, watch a tutorial with foiling, watch a tutorial with quick blondes. All of that is access, guys. All of that is at your disposal. So if you think you learned anything in this video that we're given here on this platform, just imagine how much more in depth the understanding is gotten with an exclusive membership that we've created with the online platform, Torregano Education, all access membership. Guys, click on the link in the bio if you are interested. Please share this video out. Even after it's done, share this on your Facebook page, man, because I think this could really, really help some people with their understanding of hair color, because it is still a huge fear. We gave 10 color confidence classes this year, and in each class there was at least 1 or 2, 3 people that just literally used the word fear. I'm fearful of hair color. I'm scared. I just can't do it. And I think just by understanding what we talked about tonight, it could really just free some people up to really using hair color as a tool, no different than your curling iron, no different than your shears, no different than your needle and thread.